Even before you step foot on a cruise ship, you get a really good idea. These things are probably not cheap to build. In fact, they cost over $1 billion a piece these days for your big mega cruise ships like you see from Royal Caribbean or Norwegian or Carnival. You step on board and it's more of the same. Everywhere you look, it's luxurious, it's opulent, it looks like it's straight out of Las Vegas, except it floats on the water. Needless to say, these things cost a lot to build, and you know that they've got to make a ton of money. Of course, the cruise lines wouldn't spend that much money if they didn't know they could earn it all back and make a profit. And with thousands of people on a ship that sails, each trip from the ship has to bring in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue. But if you wonder exactly how much each ship makes and how much each cruise line makes, that's what we're going to look into today. The good news is that the cruise lines are publicly traded companies. That means they have to file regular annual and quarterly reports with the SEC that give investors some insight into their business. While they don't go as far as breaking down every single cruise ship's annual revenue or profit, what they do is give us a nice overview of the entire business that we can then use to estimate how much the cruise line and the cruise ships are making on a daily basis. Now, before we get too far, I want you to understand that these calculations represent some back-of-the-envelope math. They're just estimates. Today's cruise lines are highly complex organizations with a ton of different assets and cruise lines all around the world. For example, Carnival actually encompasses a number of different lines, including Carnival Cruises, Princess, Holland America, and more. Meanwhile, financial reports, as we said, don't break down the figures solely on the individual cruise lines. We have to look at the whole and then estimate how much the cruise line and the cruise ships make each day. So let's start our analysis with Carnival. Now, Carnival is the largest cruise line in the world, and while you know that it encompasses Carnival Cruise, which is probably the most famous cruise line in North America, it also has a number of other brands, including Princess, Holland America, Seabourn, and others. Now, in 2018, according to reports filed with the SEC, Carnival Corporation brought in a staggering $18.9 billion in revenue across all of its cruise lines in 2018. Divide that by 365 days, that comes out to $51.7 million in revenue earned each day by the company. Now, how much of that turns into profit, you might be wondering. So the cruise line had a total profit of $3.15 billion last year. Divide that by the number of days in the year, and it comes out to a daily profit of about $8.6 million every single day. While Royal Caribbean may not be as large as its rival Carnival, it does hold one distinction. It has the largest cruise ships in the entire world. In addition, it's also the parent company of Celebrity and Silversea Cruises, along with more cruise lines. All in total, the cruise line has about 60 ships that cover the entire world. Now, as you might expect, all those ships bring in a ton of money. In the past year, Royal Caribbean saw revenue of $9.5 billion from its business. That comes out to about $26 million each and every day of the year on average. It's also a highly profitable company with 2018 profits of $1.8 billion. That means the cruise line earned a profit of about 4.9. You can go ahead and round it up to $5 million per day across its fleet. Now, when you talk about the big major cruise lines, it's usually threefold. It's Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. Now, Norwegian Cruise Lines is actually the smallest of the three, but it still makes plenty of revenue and plenty of profit. And in fact, it's getting larger with the introduction of ships like Norwegian Bliss and Norwegian Joy and the upcoming Norwegian Encore. Now, last year, Norwegian saw revenue of $6.1 billion. Divided by 365 days, that comes out to an average of about $16.6 million each and every day of the year. And as for profits, the company had a bottom line of $955 million, or about $2.6 million earned each and every day. While it's interesting to see how much the cruise lines are making per day, to be honest, the numbers are so large, it can be difficult to wrap your head around. What's more approachable is how much the cruise lines make from their individual ships. So when you walk in and you pay your fare, how much is that cruise ship making each and every day that it sets sail? We'll go into that in a moment. And again, before we get too far, understand that all of these are estimates. They're back of the envelope calculations. Cruise lines don't break down their revenue and profit from individual ships. Specific trips are going to earn more or less, so these figures that we're about to cite are just an estimate based on our calculations. So to calculate how much a ship makes, the first thing you need to know is how many people sail on each ship. So in this regard, cruise lines report an occupancy rate for the entire cruise line. This figure is usually between 105 to 110%, indicating that all the rooms on the ship have at least 2 guests on average, and some also have a third. That's how you can come up with a number that's above 100%. From there, we can do a little bit of math to get an estimate. So we multiply the number of guests by the revenue per passenger a ship makes each day. Now, revenue per passenger is calculated by dividing the total revenue earned by all the passenger cruise days in a year. So for example, if a ship holds 4,000 passengers and sails on a 3-day cruise, that's 12,000 passenger cruise days. Thankfully, the cruise lines give us the occupancy rate, and they also give us the number of passenger cruise days during the year. So we can just do a quick little math estimate and come up with how much the ship might make in an average day. So once again, let's start with Carnival. And in this case, we'll talk about the Carnival Horizon, which is Carnival's newest and largest ship in its fleet. It launched in 2018 and is homeport in Miami and has a total of 3,960 berths. So we can take that figure and multiply it times Carnival's average occupancy rate of 106.9%. Using these figures, we estimate that the typical cruise on this ship has 4,233 passengers. Meanwhile, we know that Carnival brought in $18.9 billion in revenue and had 89.7 million passenger days on its ship. From there, we can estimate that the cruise line earned $211 per person per day across all of its cruise lines. So with about 4,200 passengers on an average cruise, and they're each spending an average of $211 per day, that means the Carnival Horizon earns an estimated $891,000 each and every day that it sails. Carnival may be the world's largest cruise line, but Royal Caribbean has the largest ships, and its Symphony of the Seas is the world's largest cruise ship at this time. All told, the ship holds 5,518 passengers at double occupancy. But according to financial reports, Royal Caribbean sees occupancy levels of 108.9%. So an estimated number of passengers in our calculation would actually be 6,009 on each and every sailing. Now with revenue of $9.5 billion and 41.8 million passenger days on the ship, that means Royal Caribbean brings in an average of $227 per person each day across its cruise lines. So in total, the 6,009 passengers times $227 each gives a total estimated revenue of $1.36 million each and every day aboard the Symphony of the Seas. Now, Norwegian cruise lines may bring up the rear, but they are certainly no slouch. Their largest ship is Norwegian Bliss, which has room for 4,004 guests at double occupancy. However, like other cruise lines, Norwegian often sails above 100% capacity. In 2018, the occupancy figure was 107.6%. So if Norwegian Bliss sails at this level, that means 4,308 passengers are on the ship. Now, according to SEC financial reports, Norwegian brought in just under $6.1 billion last year with 20.3 million passenger days. Quick division shows us that the cruise line earned $299 per person per day in 2018. That's the highest of the big 3 cruise lines. So with 4,308 passengers on Bliss, bringing in $299 per day, that would mean revenue of $1.29 million each and every day that the ship is sailing. So as you can see from our calculations, the amount of money that cruise lines make each and every day, and even the amount of money that a single cruise ship can make each day, is pretty staggering. In this case, most of the largest cruise ships make more than $1 million in revenue each and every day that they set sail. So you can understand why cruise lines want to get them in the port, offload all those passengers, and bring on new ones and set back to sea, because each and every day is $1 million in revenue. Now, we want to know what you think about these figures. Are they higher than you expected? Are they lower than you expected? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe for more or visit Cruzely.com.